Tonight, as the stars glimmer quietly overhead and the world begins to hush, let's drift back, far back, to a time long before modern showers hissed and sang in tiled bathrooms, before hot water came on demand and steam fogged up mirrors, before loofahs and lavender-scented soaps sat neatly on the edge of a tub. Let's travel through the winding corridors of human history to discover the answer to a question you might never have asked before bedtime. Did our ancestors shower? Well, the short answer is not quite like we do, but they were far from dirty. In fact, the story of human cleanliness is as old and layered as civilization itself. So close your eyes, get cozy, and let's begin where so many of our stories do, in the cradle of civilization. Chapter 1: Water as Worship. It's about 5,000 years ago. You're standing in the sun-drenched lands between two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. This is ancient Mesopotamia, one of the first places where people gathered to build cities, write laws, and count the stars. Water in this world was not just useful, it was divine. It carved the landscape and gave life to crops. But it also had a spiritual role. Bathing, though not a daily chore, was often a ceremonial act. Picture a clay courtyard, warm from the sun. A servant gently pours water from a tall jug, letting it cascade over a bather's hands or head. A small basin collects the runoff. There's no shampoo, no modern soap. But there were oils, ash, and sometimes herbs mixed with water to cleanse the skin. Mesopotamians believed water could cleanse the spirit as well as the body. In temples, priests would perform ritual washings before making offerings to the gods. Now let's drift farther south, to the banks of the mighty Nile. Ancient Egypt, a world of golden sun and dark fertile earth. Here, bathing was both a necessity and an art. Water was drawn from the river or from wells and carried in large jars. For the wealthy, personal cleanliness was vital. And it wasn't just about dirt, it was about presentation. Egyptians bathed regularly using natron, a salty mineral that helped scrub the skin. Afterward, they applied oils scented with frankincense or myrrh. These weren't only to soften skin or mask sweat, they were also believed to protect against disease and bad spirits. Even in the tombs of the dead, archaeologists have found combs, tweezers, mirrors, and cosmetic jars. Clearly, being clean and looking good was a lifelong and after-lifelong pursuit. Chapter 2: The Romans loved their baths. Time fast forwards now to about 2,000 years ago. You're in the heart of the Roman Empire. The city buzzes with life, merchants shout from stalls, wheels clatter over stone roads, and somewhere nearby, someone is drawing water for a public bath. Roman baths or thermae were wonders of engineering. Heated floors warmed rooms, pipes brought in flowing water, and there were rooms for hot baths, cold plunges, and dry saunas. People didn't just bathe here, they lived social lives here. Friends met, business was discussed, poems were read aloud, massages were given. Imagine stepping into the tepidarium, a warm room, and then into the caldarium, thick with steam. Olive oil is rubbed into your skin, then scraped away with a strigil, carrying off sweat and dust. There's no foamy soap, but the process is deeply cleansing. And yes, if you were wealthy, you might even have an early shower. In grand Roman villas, servants could pour water over their master's head, or clever plumbing might allow for water to stream from spouts in the wall. gravity-fed from cisterns on upper levels. But not everyone lived so luxuriously. Many citizens relied on public fountains or even rivers. Still, the concept of regular bathing was firmly part of Roman identity. Chapter 3: The Fall and the Filth. But history is not a straight road. After Rome fell, so too did much of its infrastructure, including its baths. We enter the Middle Ages, a time often remembered, perhaps unfairly, for its lack of hygiene. It's true that in many parts of Europe, public bathing declined. Baths were sometimes associated with immorality or disease. After the Black Death, some believed that bathing opened the skin's pores and thus made the body vulnerable to plague. Many bathhouses were shut down, but not all cleanliness disappeared. People still washed their hands and faces regularly. Hair was brushed, teeth were scrubbed with cloths, and linens worn closest to the skin were changed and cleaned more often than we might expect. Clean underclothes were a quiet sign of dignity. Scent played a major role too. Pomanders, small, decorative balls filled with herbs and spices, were carried or worn to sweeten the air around one's body. But while some Europeans feared water, other cultures held onto bathing as a sacred act. In the Islamic world, hygiene was considered both a spiritual and physical necessity. Hammams, or Turkish baths, flourished from the Middle East to North Africa. These beautifully tiled sanctuaries used flowing water and warm steam to purify the body before prayer. The Prophet Muhammad spoke often of cleanliness, and traditions of regular washing, wudu before prayer, full-body ghusl after certain rituals, were established as pillars of the faith. So while parts of Europe struggled with sanitation, other parts of the world kept the art of bathing alive. Chapter 4: From Buckets to Bathrooms. As centuries passed, the Renaissance brought renewed interest in science, anatomy, and health. But bathing was still a slow comeback. In the 18th and 19th centuries, washing began to return to the daily lives of Europeans, especially the upper class. Water still had to be heated by hand and carried in buckets, but people were once again filling tin tubs, usually placed in the kitchen near the stove for warmth. Then came one of the most life-changing developments in human history: indoor plumbing. In Victorian England, engineers designed early mechanical showers. These used hand pumps and nozzles to spray water over a person, but often recycled the same dirty water. Not ideal. Still, the concept was catching on. By the early 20th century, as cities developed municipal water systems, showers as we know them began to appear in homes. At first, they were a luxury. Now, they are nearly a standard. Showers were fast, convenient, and unlike the long, hot baths of the past, they fit neatly into the hurried rhythm of modern life. Chapter 5: So did they shower? Let's come full circle. If by shower you mean standing under a hot, pressurized stream every morning, with shampoo in one hand and body wash in the other, then no, our ancestors didn't quite shower like that. But if you mean, did they care about being clean? Did they invent clever ways to bathe, build tools and rituals, create perfumes and powders, and dedicate space and time to the care of their bodies? Then yes, absolutely yes. Across time and cultures, from Mesopotamian temple washings to Roman spa days, from Egyptian oils to Ottoman steam rooms, humans have always pursued cleanliness, sometimes to honor the gods, sometimes to attract a lover, sometimes just to feel good. Even in times of poor plumbing or shaky science, people found a way to rinse, to scrub, to feel fresh. Epilogue, the last drip. So now, as you lie still, perhaps freshly showered yourself, know this. Your nightly rinse isn't just a habit, it's part of a story. A ritual passed down through generations of clever, clean-seeking humans. The quiet splash of water is an echo from every basin, riverbank, and bathhouse that came before. We have always wanted to feel clean, to start fresh, to wash the day away. From bucket to basin, from oils to soaps, from sacred rivers to silver faucets, water has always been our companion in that journey. Sleep well now. Let the warmth of history and the quiet drip of time lull you gently into dreams. Good night.